For people familiar with the single-season sack record held by Michael Strahan, they usually point to the sack against Brett Favre, which was basically a free sack. But when I did some more digging, I found that it went deeper than that. I found one, if not two players that had a sack illegitimately removed from them, which if they weren't, they would have been put at 23 sacks for the season, which would have been the record. Michael Strahan, defensive end for the New York Giants, had a 15-year career in the league and deservedly earned his spot in the Hall of Fame in 2014. His 141.5 career sacks sits him 6th all-time on that list, but unfortunately for him, he also holds the most controversial record in the NFL. That is, the most sacks in a single season at 22.5, which was also recently tied by TJ Watt in the 2020 season. Before we get into the controversy around this record, it's important to note that the true holder of the single-season sack record is actually Al Bubba Baker, who, as a rookie, in 1978, recorded 23 sacks, half a sack better than Strahan. The thing is, sacks weren't officially recorded until 1982, so he's the unofficial leader according to the NFL. For sacks, everything before 1982 was not official.
Al Baker is leading this team in sacks. I think he has about 23 now.
In that clip, you can see the commentator even says about 23. It just wasn't something they tracked. So let's take a look at the record post-1982. In the season of Strahan's sack record, he was having a great year. 4 forced fumbles, 141 total tackles, and a selection in the first team All-Pro. He also won Defensive Player of the Year. His ability to pressure quarterbacks helped the Giants rank 5th in the league in points allowed per game at 17.4 and 7th in total defense at 301.1 yards per game. So the game that everybody points to is the final game of the season against the Green Bay Packers, January 6, 2002. Late in the fourth quarter, with just under 3 minutes left, the Packers held a comfortable lead at 34-25. It was at this moment that Brett Favre made a decision that would spark controversy for years to come. Favre was a good friend with Strahan and most likely saw it as doing his friend a solid, but in reality he did more harm than good. The Packers had called a running play, but Favre actually changed it without telling his offensive line. So the linemen thought Favre was handing it off, and they didn't pass protect. So Strahan, as you can see in the clip, was completely unblocked. That sack gave Strahan his record-breaking 22.5 sacks for the season, but because of how it actually took place, it led to immediate questions and debates. Until that point, Strahan had no sacks, 3 quarterback hurries, and 2 quarterback hits. It didn't look like he was going to get that record. Years after the event, Strahan said, "I just hate that it got caught up in the wash of the record-breaking sack. The sack record's great, absolutely phenomenal, but I also feel like in a sense it was diminished because everyone goes, oh, Brett Favre gave you a sack. I caught so much flack over it, it's not worth it." Because everyone looks as if one sack that they question is the defining moment of my career. His head coach, Jim Fassel, also chimed in, and he said, "It happens in athletics. If players have respect for that person, and he's close to breaking a record, I mean, you've seen it in baseball. A guy's going to have a home run record, an RBI record. If it doesn't matter to the game, they'll pull a fastball down the middle and let him knock it out of there. So if they have respect for the player, sometimes I'm going to let you get it." The previous record was held by Mark Gastanu, defensive end for the Jets, in 1984 with 22 sacks. Gastanu is still salty about Strahan's bogus record. In a 2020 ESPN interview, he said, "It's my record and I want it to be known that it's my record. I'm not going to say, I don't want to hurt anybody's feelings, it's my record. This is on my head all the time. It goes through my head all the time. I want to clear things up." But it's important to note that he admitted to using steroids while on the Jets, so I don't think his record's that legit, seeing as he was completely juiced. So everybody talks about the Brett Favre sack, but YouTuber JaguarGator9 discovered an even more fraudulent play. In Week 9 against the Cowboys, Strahan got a sack that shouldn't have counted as a sack, because the Cowboys quarterback was clearly past the line of scrimmage when Strahan brought him down, and his full video will be posted down below. So when I started to dig into the sack record, I found that other players who were pretty close to his record got robbed of legitimate sacks that would give them more than 22.5. Other than Gastanu, the 2 closest players were Justin Houston in 2014 and Jared Allen in 2011. So firstly on Justin Houston, I found this Reddit post claiming he was robbed in Week 17 against the San Diego Chargers in 2014. You can see here the play was called dead because Houston was offside, even though he wasn't. At least that's what he's claiming. The thing is, I skimmed through articles trying to find the full game highlights, unsuccessfully, and I went through the play-by-play breakdown of this game, but I couldn't find this play where Houston got the sack, but there was a penalty and it got reversed. Unfortunately, I wanted to verify this, but I wasn't able to. I did want to include it here though, because the post had a lot of upvotes and nobody else challenging his point. And I also came across Jared Allen getting robbed, initially from a Reddit post, and I was able to verify that claim, so I thought the Houston Post deserved a mention. So I was able to confirm that a sack was taken away from Jared Allen when the Vikings were playing the Green Bay Packers in the 2011 season. Aaron Rodgers fumbled the ball, but according to the NFL rulebook, it was a sack. It says, when the player making an apparent attempt to pass loses the ball due to contact by a defensive player at or behind the line of scrimmage, give sack credit as defined by the foregoing principles to the defensive player who caused the fumble, unless the potential passer recovers and makes another apparent attempt to pass, i.e. ball in throwing hand and looking an eligible receiver downfield. In that case, credit the sack to the player or players who tackled or downed the potential passer at or behind the line of scrimmage. And this was the description of the play on the NFL's website for the play-by-play of the game. So to put simply, according to the rules, since Rodgers was taken down behind the line of scrimmage and there was no subsequent pass attempt after the fumble recovery, Jared Allen should have got the sack. And if he got awarded that sack, as he initially did, then he would have had the record at 23 sacks. And then we have TJ Watt, who tied the record. A quick note, Watt only played 15 games, yet he still tied the record, which is pretty impressive. There was a controversial call against the Ravens in Week 18 of the 2021 season that the Steelers actually thought was a sack and sent an appeal, but the decision to not count as a sack was upheld by the league. But regardless, TJ Watt got his 22.5 sacks legitimately, Strahan didn't. That being said, it actually looks like Jared Allen, maybe even Justin Houston, should be getting the award, not even TJ Watt. One thing is clear, Strahan should not have the record. If you deduct the one clear illegitimate sack against the Cowboys, he would only have 21.5, and Justin Houston, Jared Allen, and TJ Watt would all be ahead of him. As Jaguar Gator 9 notes, the league has changed stats before when they find new information like this. For example, George Halas, former head coach of the Bears, once held the record for most wins of all time, but he had one of his wins deducted because it was found he was not actually coaching the game, he was serving in World War II. That being said, I don't want to diminish anything Strahan's done. He had an amazing career and he's an amazing player, but the sack record shouldn't be his. Alright, thanks for watching, take care.